Okay, here we're going to talk about prosecuting patent applications and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Now, if you're going to get anything out of this course, you're going to get as much from the practical information as you are from just learning the laws. Again, just learning the laws doesn't do you much. I know for a fact I wouldn't stand a chance of passing the California State Bar or the Patent Bar right now, because with the Patent Bar, you basically have to learn how to argue a 103 rejection. That's what you really have to learn how to do if you're going to make a good living as a patent attorney. But they can't ask that in 6 hours of multiple choice questions. So they have to put in all sorts of stuff like, well, if you file an initial application in China and then you patent cooperation treaty it over to Austria, how many days do you have to file a missed declaration when you then file a continuation part over in Mongolia? And if you ask me that, I'm just going to forget it. I don't know. I'm going to talk to one of my patent attorney friends in Austria and ask him or her what's going on. I don't know that, and you never remember it. But they've got to ask you questions, so they put it in the exam. But anyway, with respect to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and interviews, the examiners are they're real people just like us, and so they're picky ones and they're easy ones. They're ones who view their job as being the formidable knight protecting the USPTO from inventors who don't deserve patents. There are others that are very cooperative minded and they will work with you to try to find patentable subject matter. There are a number of websites out there that will, some of them are patent attorney only logins, but we compare the examiners. We talk about different ones. Very frequently you'll see stuff like examiner X should be immediately fired. Yeah, I don't know how he's lasted 19 years at the USPTO, and a lot of people will chime in. Yeah, I had him, and he was terrible. So I have my favorite examiners. I've got two that I don't know how they're still employed. But anyway, so whether you succeed or fail on a patent application, in many cases, is going to be as much a part of who you pull as an examiner as the patent application itself. So it's not a perfect science. It's not like there's a computer with AI that evaluates their patent application and says if you score 7 out of 10 on the 103 test, you automatically get a patent. It's not like that. You got to go through a real person. So once your patent is filed, your patent application is filed, 6 months usually later on, you get assigned an examiner. And again, you look at the examiner's name. If it's somebody good, you're like, yeah, this is going to be great. If it's somebody bad, you're like, oh man, I hope you get hired away by a big law firm or something like that. But there are a couple of real dregs that, put it this way, my least favorite examiner couldn't hack it as an engineer. Apparently he didn't have a good enough personality to cut it as an engineer. He couldn't cut it as a patent agent, so he ends up at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And by now I think he's got 19 years seniority there, so they're not getting rid of him at all. But has virtually no concept of what patentable subject matter is and what a patent application should be written like. So anyway, once you get assigned an examiner, the examiner reviews your patent application and issues what's called an office action. And the office action will usually say, I'm giving you some claims, I'm rejecting others. I didn't understand these claims. I didn't like the drawings. You need to fix this on the drawings. It basically gives you a blueprint for why they're rejecting at least part of your application. And the good examiners will give you some guidance on how you might be able to get a patent out of it. Now, you can always ask for an interview with the examiner. And back when I started, the only way to do that was to fly back to Ronald Reagan Airport in Virginia and then take the trolley to the USPTO headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia, and you'd meet with the examiner and argue your case there in person. This worked usually pretty well because we could bring back We could bring back specimens, samples of the inventor's work. You could bring back the inventor. That usually worked well. One case it really didn't work well because I told the examiner I had to kick him under the table to try to get him to shut up as he was just going off on this examiner. But it was really helpful for that. On the other hand, we had a near disaster where I flew back with the client. We stayed at a hotel that night, showed up at the USPTO the next day. About half an hour before our time, we met with security and said, we have an interview with examiner so-and-so. And he goes, oh, she just left. I said, you got to be kidding. I just flew out here from San Diego and I brought the inventor with me. We're just staring at the security guard. He quickly got on his cell phone. And then this examiner shows up in her blue jeans and her t-shirt and says, oh, I forgot. Not off to a great start, was it? So anyway, now fortunately they're doing a lot more of WebEx interviews, and this was very much facilitated or pushed along by COVID, because after COVID they kicked all the examiners out of the office, said work from home. The examiner says, okay, I can do that. Now apparently they're having a problem getting the examiners back into the office, but now you can do a WebEx with the examiner at his or her house, and that usually works much better because people aren't inconvenienced so much, and I don't have to charge the client for a ticket and a hotel room. Obviously we used to try to group these together. I remember one case I went back there. I think I argued 14 patents in 2 days, and I was just running around the USPTO. It's like 8 buildings. They all have 8 floors. So you're running up and down and trying to get through security to get to the next meeting. And then they tell you that one of the examiners got sick, and so okay, well, I don't know. Can we move that one off to tomorrow or something like that? But anyway, WebEx is a much better way to do it. Now, in terms of the considerations of going into an interview, you want to have an idea of what you're going to present. You don't just call up the examiner and say, hey, dude, what do we do? Because they're probably going to say, you need to read the office action, come back with a proposal. So usually you go through the office action and you amend at least one of the claims, and you send it to the examiner ahead of time as a proposed claim amendment, and you give the reasons why you think it's patentable over the subject, over the prior art that the examiner cited. And then at that point, the examiner can either agree with you, can suggest some other changes that should be made, or can just say, no, I don't agree with you, which, that happens sometimes. And at that point, then you're probably looking at a final rejection and an appeal, which gets very pricey.